lift up your arm right now and take a quick sniff. Or, more realistically, think about that subtle wave of panic you feel when you realize you left the house in the morning without putting on deodorant. For millions of people, that is not just a minor oversight. It is an immediate social emergency. We have been trained to believe that without a daily application of synthetic chemicals, aluminum, and artificial fragrances rubbed under our arms, we are walking biological hazards. So, here is the question. Did ancient humans deal with this? Were hunter-gatherers walking around in a permanent cloud of toxic body odor, offending their camp mates, and alerting predators from miles away? Or is something else going on here? Something that has almost nothing to do with basic hygiene, and almost everything to do with the way the modern world has broken a delicate biological system. Let's ask the stranger question. Not why do some people smell bad, but why did needing deodorant become a universal human requirement in such a short slice of history? The concept of masking smells is old. The ancient Egyptians used scented oils, and the Romans bathed in heavy perfumes. But those were luxury status symbols for the elite, not daily physical necessities for the average person. The modern roll-on deodorant and antiperspirant are incredibly new, exploding onto the commercial scene in the early 20th century. Before that, nobody was buying daily underarm blocks. What has happened in the last few generations is a completely different phenomenon. Offensive underarm odor has become a default state that we must constantly fight. And it is not because our genes suddenly mutated to make us smellier. Genetics do not rewrite a population's biology in 100 years. Something in our environment changed, and it changed fast. Researchers who study this call it an evolutionary mismatch. Your underarms, your sweat glands, and the microscopic ecosystem living on your skin were not built for the world you currently navigate. To understand this, we have to look at the actual biological mechanism of how we sweat. Your body has two completely different types of sweat glands. First, you have eccrine glands, which are scattered all over your skin. When you run, work hard, or get hot, these glands release a clear watery fluid that is 99% water and salt. Its only job is to evaporate and cool you down. It is naturally completely odorless. But then you have apocrine glands. These are concentrated in areas with dense hair follicles, specifically your underarms and groin. Apocrine glands do not secrete watery sweat. They release a thick milky fluid rich in proteins, lipids, and fatty acids. And here is the fascinating part. Even this thick apocrine sweat is completely odorless when it first leaves your body. The smell only happens when that fluid meets the bacteria living on your skin. Specifically, a genus of bacteria called Corynebacterium and certain species of Staphylococcus. These microbes feast on the lipids and proteins in your apocrine sweat, metabolizing them into volatile fatty acids and pungent sulfur compounds. That chemical reaction is what we call body odor. In a natural environment, this system was balanced. What broke it? The first trigger is a massive shift in how we experience stress. In a natural state, apocrine sweat glands are not triggered by physical heat. They are triggered by your sympathetic nervous system's fight or flight response. This response is tied to adrenaline, cortisol, and fear. To an ancient human, this stress response was acute and rare. You get chased by a wild animal, your apocrine glands fire. You survive, and the stress ends. But modern humans live in a state of constant, low-level, chronic, psychological stress, sitting in traffic, checking work emails, worrying about bills, and scrolling through bad news. Your brain does not know the difference between a physical predator and an anxious thought, so it keeps your sympathetic nervous system continuously dialed up. We are constantly dripping trace amounts of thick, lipid-rich stress sweat directly into our underarms all day long, providing an endless, continuous buffet for odor-producing bacteria. Then there is what we do to the bacteria themselves. In our quest for absolute cleanliness, we scrub our underarms with harsh soaps and douse them in aluminum-based antiperspirants designed to clog sweat ducts and kill microbes. But these chemicals do not just target the smelly bacteria, they wipe out the entire delicate underarm microbiome.
When you clear the playing field, guess who recolonizes first and fastest? The aggressive, odor-producing Corynebacterium. Studies have shown that people who regularly use antiperspirants can actually develop a more dominant population of these odor-producing bacteria when they stop. We have essentially created a biological dependency. The more we use these products to strip the skin, the more we pave the way for the exact bacteria that cause the smell. Finally, there is the microclimate of our clothing. Most of what an ancient human wore was nothing at all, or highly breathable natural materials like leather, wool, or linen. Sweat could evaporate instantly. Today, we wrap our underarms in tight synthetic fabrics like polyester and nylon. These plastics trap moisture and lipids close to the skin, creating a warm, stagnant, oxygen-deprived greenhouse, which is the perfect breeding ground for odor-producing bacteria to multiply by the billions. But here is where we have to slow down, because it would be a mistake to oversimplify this. Genetics absolutely still matter. In fact, there is a very specific genetic variant in a gene called ABCC11. If you carry a certain version of this gene, your apocrine glands simply do not produce the specific chemical precursors that bacteria feed on. You literally do not produce underarm odor. In East Asian populations, this mutation is incredibly common, with up to 80 to 95% of people not needing deodorant because their biology does not produce the raw materials for odor. But for the rest of the world, the gene is active, and our biology is set to produce those oils. It would also be wrong to claim ancient humans walked around smelling like a field of flowers. They absolutely had a distinct scent. But to our ancestors, body odor was not a social failure. It was a highly evolved biological signature. Olfactory signals carried critical data. They helped humans identify family members, gauge the health of a companion, and even unconsciously detect immune system compatibility in potential mates through major histocompatibility complex genes. We did not evolve to smell like artificial pine or powder. We evolved to smell like humans, and our ancestors accepted that as a normal part of being alive. What changed was not our scent. It was our tolerance for it, pushed along by a massive commercial shift. In the early 20th century, a high society marketing campaign famously popularized the term BO, or body odor, as a social shame tactic to sell early antiperspirants. Marketers convinced a generation that natural human scent was a dirty secret that would cost them their jobs, their marriages, and their friends. Suddenly, a biological signal was rebranded as a moral failing. We retreated indoors into crowded, unventilated offices and schools, where natural human smells became claustrophobic under synthetic clothes and chronic stress. So, imagine an early human at, say, 18 years old. Their days are spent outdoors in breathable, natural elements, their physical exertion triggering watery, odorless, cooling sweat. Their underarm microbiome is a stable, ancient ecosystem that has not been stripped by chemicals. Their stress is acute and brief, leaving their apocrine glands quiet for most of the day. They have a natural human scent, but it is faint, balanced, and useful. Now imagine an 18-year-old today. They sit indoors, under constant low-level academic or social stress, pushing their apocrine glands to secrete thick, lipid-heavy stress sweat. They wear tight synthetic shirts that trap this moisture, and they scrub their skin daily with harsh soaps that decimate their natural microbiome, leaving a blank canvas for odor-producing bacteria to run wild. Neither body is broken. They are both responding with total biological accuracy to the demands of their environments. It is just that the modern environment is one our bodies and our skin were never designed to inhabit. Ancient humans did not have better skin or magical genetics. They had different lifestyles. Their bodies lived in open air, balanced by nature, free from chronic psychological tension. Ours live indoors, tightly bound in plastics, constantly stressed and chemically stripped. The sudden, sharp underarm odor we constantly fight is not a design flaw in our species. It is a healthy body responding to an unnatural lifestyle. If this is the first time you have thought about your own body odor this way, drop a comment and let me know. Does it change how you look at your daily hygiene routine, or how you think about those mornings you forget your deodorant?